everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I'm your host, Emily Hayden, and for today, we have two special guests on today. They actually both just attended the Evolve retreat in Houston, Texas, and I'm really excited to dive into their personal journeys of evolving. I believe it'll help to empower some of you guys to face the things that are giving you fear, to face them head on and to overcome them, because what you get on the other end of that experience of overcoming the hard or the uncomfortable thing is so rewarding and so worth it. So today we are starting with our first guest. Her name is Shaday Duarte, and she is actually a lawyer with a trial litigation win rate of 98%. So if you need a lawyer, we will put her information down below. But she's also a lifestyle fitness junkie. So during the evenings and weekends, she likes doing anything and everything active, from weightlifting to spin, hot yoga. She used to be a kickbox trainer, also dancing her heart away at music festivals with her cousins. So she is very multifaceted. Shaday, welcome to today's show.
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I'm excited to see your face again.
I know. It's so great to see you too. And our second guest is Chelsey Smith. She is an Evolve X graduate. She went through the whole program. She lives near Tulsa, Oklahoma with her husband and dog. She was actually in the corporate field for a little over 10 years, and now she's an operations manager for two small businesses. She loves cooking, hiking, and shopping secondhand. I could use some tips with that, so maybe we'll talk after this. She has actually been on a weight loss journey, and she's lost 50 pounds and maintained it for over 4 years, which is really incredible and really inspiring. So welcome to the show, Chelsey.
Thank you, Emily. I'm so excited to be here and to echo what she said. I am so excited to see everybody. I've been missing my Evolve X family since being home. So, so excited to see you guys.
I know. And it's crazy how much of a bond we were all able to create within a couple of days. Like, I was telling the girls I spoke to last time that, that dinner that we had, and then afterwards we all went out for a little bit. I feel like people watching us probably thought that we were like old time friends for years. And little did they know we had just met. So, okay, Shaday, you actually attended the first Evolve retreat. So that was kind of something that's special about you. What were your insights, and kind of, what led you to come to this retreat? What was your intention for being there?
Yeah, I think that for me personally, I just think that if you want to become like a more refined person of yourself, and a more galvanized person, that you have to do things out of your comfort zone, like the uncomfortable things, and that this way it'll grow you, and you can become that next best version. And so for me, and I think the retreat was 2019, the first one. Yeah. So I've been following you since you became an athlete with First Form, and I really resonated with you and throughout your entire journey. And then you started to share a little bit about your faith, and I was like, oh yeah, this is my girl. And so when the 2019 one came up, I was frightened out of my mind because I'm a bit more timid and shy initially. And I was just like, well, I just felt like there was something missing, and that I really needed kind of an outside perspective to be around other people than my own community. And so that's why I went to the 2019 one, and it was amazing and fantastic. And so from the moment I left there, I knew I would go to the next one. And so when the next one came up, I was just like, I mean, I was ready for it, like the moment we left 2019 retreat. And I'm like, yeah. And then the world decided to do a 180, and like, things got on pause. So I just knew from that I was going to make it happen.
That's awesome. And what do you think? Do you have any sort of like comparison from 2019 to 2020 in regards to your personal growth and journey? Meaning, I know you said that you grew a lot from 2019, but what was the you going into this year's retreat, and how was that different from the 2019 version?
So in 2019, the one regret that I had, and it kind of stems from me being so shy and timid at first, is I probably went in at about 90% as opposed to 100%. And so looking back after that event, I was like, wow, what would have, I mean, there was tremendous growth just from the 2019 one, but I was like, what would have changed even more had I got in 100%. So going into this one, I was just like, there's no more of this shy, timid girl that's like only going to step her toes in. Like, I need to go in this full force, like 100%. And so my mindset was different going into this one. And I knew from the first one, unexpected things, growth occurred. And so I knew I needed to not put the evolution of what would come of me from this retreat in a box, but just to be really open-minded about it and just go in with both feet. And I did. And let me tell you, the first one was great, but this one was truly like indescribable. It was phenomenal. It was one of the best experiences. And I'm not just saying this, like, of my life, hands down. So.
Wow. That is so incredible and so rewarding too, because, you know, I can only hope to cultivate an environment and an atmosphere where you guys are able to experience these things, which it sometimes is difficult because it's like in the business world, they can tell you we're going to, you know, 2 times your income, we're going to 4 times your return, and these things that are tangible when it comes to numbers and stats and things that they can really give people. And when it comes to, you know, part of what I do, a lot of that is not something that is data or physically written down or something that's tracked by numbers. Oftentimes it's, you know, what's felt in the personal growth in your heart and what you're able to do and create and the mindset shifts you're able to make. So just to hear you say that is really incredible, because I can only hope that it does that for you guys. Chelsey, so you had gone through the Evolve X program. So you were actually a client with the Evolve program. And so coming in, being a client already, what were your, I guess, expectations, or what did you kind of think that you were walking into? Did you have an idea of it? And if so, did that match your expectation?
Well, having done the Evolve X program, I think it was the second quarter of 2021. I loved it. It was the motivation that I really needed at that time. I was working with a personal trainer then, and I felt really called to do the mindset portion of it. I knew that was an area that I could use to level up in, and I needed support in that area. And the amount from the audios to working with my coach Amanda, that really helped open the doors to having other bigger conversations with other people in my life, just having somebody like that to share those things with. So be forever grateful to Coach Amanda for my time with her in Evolve X. But having done that, I knew that if any in-person thing came up, I wanted to come. Like, I knew that this was going to be bringing the people that I wanted to surround myself with all into one place, and that I knew I wanted to be a part of it. I had some soft expectations. I knew of the schedule of things that we are going to do, and I was excited about it, but I could not have expected the level of community and love and friendship that I was met with. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I agree. I think, you know, I mentioned it. Where was it? Maybe it was on someone's post. There's been so many posts about it. I'm trying to and I'm like, wait, which one did I already see? But I've been commenting just my different thoughts, you know, which is interesting because it's kind of been different for each person. But I was commenting on the fact that it's like every person that showed up, they really had the same heart posture as everyone else. Like, yes, we all have different lives and different things going on, different things that we're growing through. But I think we all came just with this non-judgmental, safe, loving heart posture. And I think that really set the tone for the entire weekend. And it really helped to create and cultivate this place where people could open up and they could be themselves. I'm curious, is there anything for either of you that was on the itinerary that kind of scared you a little bit?
I was very nervous about the cold plunge. That was something on my radar that I knew was going to be intense. I hadn't experienced anything like that before, aside from a little bit of a cold shower practice, but there's nothing like an ice bath.
That's very true. And so what was really cool about that, and I was kind of like bragging on you the other day, because the cold plunge wasn't easy for you. Like when you got in, it wasn't, you know, and he told us, he's like, there's going to be a lot of different responses. For some, it may be easier. You may really coast through it. And for others, it's going to be quite the challenge. And, you had quite the challenge with it. And I just have to say, like, how incredibly impressed and proud I am of you, because at any moment you could have said, this is too much, and gotten out. And you stayed through the entire thing. And then at the end, I feel like, at least I definitely expected you to just jump right out when he said, okay, now you're done and you can get out if you would like. Or he gave you the option to dunk your head. And when you dunked your head, I mean, we all started cheering, because we were like, what? Like, not only did you overcome that and conquer that, but then you were like, okay, now that I just did the hardest thing, I'm going to make it harder and dunk myself all the way in. So tell me a little bit about that experience for you, and just kind of like what you were thinking and feeling, and like what it felt like to get out of that after you just submerged yourself.
All right. So, I mean, first of all, you two, Hannah and Emily went first, and they led the way. They were very confident. They made it seem like it was easy, and they dunked their head at the end. And then so it seemed like that set the bar for everyone. I was one of the last ones to go. So having watched you guys do it and then everyone else follow suit, I just knew I had to. There was no other option at that point.
Wow.
But no, I agree. Like I wanted to get out so badly, but God bless that facilitator, Errol. He is wonderful. That man is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Just looking into his eyes, I knew that I could do it. I knew he wasn't going to let me do anything I couldn't do. So I knew I could trust him and trust myself and do the thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, the dunk afterwards, that kind of surprised me too. I was ready to get out, but at that point I was already so cold and so done with it. It's like, this is it. It's either do or die.
Do or die.
So I just did it.
Oh man, I love it. And you know, what you just said, I think is really powerful, because you were saying how, you know, leaders led the way, the rest of the group was doing it. And so at that point, it's like your environment called you higher, right? Imagine if you were in a different environment where people were, you know, jumping out and freaking out and no one was dunking. Maybe that environment wouldn't call you to that higher, you know, place of uncomfortability, that place of growth, because that's really where growth occurs. So I think that's one really good takeaway point from what you just shared. Just, you know, everybody needs to know how important their environment it is, and how powerful it can be when you get in an environment of people that are seeking growth. They're seeking the highest version of themselves, and they're pushing that standard higher and higher and higher. And what it does is it just elevates you. So it's really important to make sure you're around those kinds of people. Shaday, what about you? Is there anything that kind of scared you on the itinerary?
So for me, this is going to sound really strange, but this is kind of what it is. I was more scared of the unknown, like having gone to the first retreat and knowing what I came out of there a completely different person, and it really did change the trajectory of my life in certain ways. I was just kind of scared of, okay, what, like, I just knew. And so
you knew that you didn't know.
Yeah, I knew.
Okay.
And that, to me, I like to be in control. I like to plan for even for this, I was emailing Jess and I was like, are you sure there are any questions I can look over ahead of time? Like, I'm a planner. I just like to know ahead of time. And so not knowing, you know, what we were going into was really frightening for me. And a piece of that too was when I saw, you know, the journaling and the devotional, and it was that vulnerability is really hard for me. And I mean, it's always been a challenge for me. And then getting into it, you know, at one point you were like, turn around and share with your partner in the beginning. And I just like completely froze up. And it was, you know, it was really terrifying. But I was so incredibly thankful that you pushed us and encouraged us to open up and to really take that next step. And then mirroring what you said, everybody at the retreat had such an amazing, beautiful heart posture. They were non-judgmental. Becky was my partner, and you know, I was uncomfortable saying certain things, and she was just making me feel so comfortable.
Oh. Yeah.
Not uncomfortable, so comfortable. And it was just, you know, by the end, I was like, all right, you're stuck with me for life, girl.
You're like,
kind of the joke.
I've told you these things, and now I'm going to have to kill you if anyone else knows.
Yeah. And so but honestly, that's where I also found the most value, was in the most uncomfortable places that we were put in. So.
Is that not like just such a big lesson for all of us, right? Because it's like every time we want to shy away from something, we think we for some reason we get in our heads and we think we shouldn't do it, or we get nervous about it, or we have anxiety about it. And yet that's the thing that we need to do. And so I hope as everyone listens to, y'all's experience of this, they can really take home the fact that you got to run straight, like head on towards the things that are giving you fear, because on the other end of that fear and on the other end of overcoming is so much strength and so much confidence. Like, does that not just build so much more confidence in you as a friend, as an individual, being able to be there for somebody, as well as having confidence to open up to somebody who you believe can be trustworthy, and later on you find that they are trustworthy, right? So I think there's just so many amazing, lessons that can come from this. And, as a facilitator, host, whatever you want to call me, I was able to recognize pretty quickly that we were a group of introverts. Like, there was so many of us, or at least like in this environment. And so I immediately switched some of the things that I was going to do, because I was like, oh no, this is going to have to be a one-on-one thing. There's no way they're going to open up to the group. Like, I'm going to ask for someone to share and no one's going to share. So I was like, okay, we're going to do individual, group sharing things sooner in the weekend that I'd originally planned. And that actually worked out so well, because, I just had these moments of looking around at their room, and I just saw people sharing their hearts. And on the other end of it, I saw people receiving with so much love and compassion, just little things. Like, I'd watch and there's a whole room of people, and there's like, someone putting their hand on their arm, or giving them a hug, or just like this, like you could tell people were just so invested in each other. And I think that was so beautiful. And it can be such a beautiful, picture of what I think friendship and relationship truly can look like. And, I heard a lot of the girls say over the weekend, I feel closer to this group than I do a lot of the people back home. And, what I found with that is that we go throughout so much of our lives without being intentional about creating this deep connection. So it's not that you guys don't have that deep connection or that it can't be a possibility, but it's like, how often have you sat face to face and like just shared some of the hardest things with each other? Oftentimes we end up connecting over different things, kind of shying away from like the real, the vulnerable, the gritty things. So, what was y'all's experience when it came to those sharing moments? I know, Shaday, you said that you felt that like you felt comfortable from, Becky and what she was sharing. Chelsey, was that difficult for you? Was that part easy for you? How was it? And what do you think kind of came out of that?
I feel like with anything, you got to test the waters a little bit. I think like the first couple people I started talk to, like I was a little more shy, a little more reserved. That's just who I am as a person, though. I'm a fade to the background and just kind of hide out in the corner type. But this was not that type of event. And you were not allowed to be that kind of person at this event. That was the best part about it. The one-on-one thing that was great for me. I appreciate that you recognize that within us, because I think that really did connect us really fast. Sarah was my partner that I buddied up with on that one-on-one event that Shaday was referring to. And it was a little hard for both of us. Like, it was just kind of, we came through this visualization experience and kind of deciding what planet we were on. Right. And like, now we're going to share it with each other. So it really connects to you, because you're like, I don't know what just happened, but this is what happened to me. Like, me too. So it was really a neat opportunity to get to share that. I don't know, just the more people I talk to, and and like you said, we can connect on so many different things, but being able to connect over growth and this like mindset and over faith, like this has been very huge for me. So
and I will say too is that, again, kind of what Chelsey said, hats off to you, Emily, for the way you structured this, because the first day or the first morning in our devotional, you had us journal. You gave us some prompts and you had us do journaling, not knowing where this was going to go. So I can be fully vulnerable to myself. So I'm, okay, very excited about this. And then, we go into the breathing and at the Alpha Land, and you have us also write down some more journaling, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this too. And then at that moment, not knowing we're going to need to share what we've written and what we've experienced with someone else. And then you're like, okay, turn around and let's share. And I mean, really, that was such a great way to do it, because had I known from the beginning that I would be sharing this out loud, I could be honest with you, I don't think I would have dug as deep. And
Mm,
the cool thing of digging that deep and throughout the whole entire weekend is I didn't know what I was missing until I actually experienced the other side. So, for to be more specific, vulnerability. I didn't know what it felt like to be vulnerable, to someone so quickly and so vulnerable, like not holding back. And as I did that throughout the whole weekend, it was so freeing,
mm,
and it was like honestly such an amazing experience. I knew this was an issue, and I've talked about it with the therapist, and she's great. But one thing that was always missing is the action part of it. And this retreat
mhm.
gave us the action part of it. Like Chelsey said, we weren't forced, but like, you're there, you're gonna do it. So
Right. Right. And it's one of those things, like I always kind of left it open, like, share as much as you want to share. It can be a sentence, it can be a paragraph, like share what's on your heart to share. But what I find is that often by giving people that little first step that they can take, they are usually pretty willing to take the rest of the steps on their own. So I love that you're able to have that tangible experience. And that's the thing is, we can talk all day long about evolving. We can talk all day long about personal growth. But when you have to be in person and have these real experiences that promote that growth and that evolving, way of life, you're actually going to have an experience, and that changes you. It really does. And, that's why I'm really, really passionate about like bringing these things into a real life, tangible experience, because like I said, there's nothing better than actually having the real experience. Cause we're also in this day and age where people they overconsume information and thoughts and concepts. And I find that they're not putting it into action. So yeah, I like constructing this weekend, so to speak, where it can be, this little array of events that to you guys may seem like one-off things, but yeah, it was intentionally planned to all connect together by the end of the retreat.
And it was truly that, I think, too, is like it wasn't just, an event where you go and you make it to the end and yay. No, like the learning process, the growth, and the evolving part of it was throughout the entire thing. From the moment you chose to sign up, to do it and to do it 100%, just through every single experience, even the ones that were unplanned. For example, I mean, just the little moments I learned so much, heads up, the
I was just
heads
going to
up
mention
game.
that.
That was my highlights. I mean, the whole thing was a highlight, but I was crying laughing.
Same. I was
And
literally had tears pouring down my face.
yeah. And there was just so much that I learned throughout the little, even just, watching you in certain situations when you didn't realize that I was watching it. And I mean, it was just, and the people that interact with you in your community, and it's the entire process is the evolution, like the evolving part, not just the beginning and the end.
Yeah, that's such a good point to make. Chelsey, when it came to the meditation and the breath work, is that something that you've had experience with before? And if so, how, what was that experience like for you?
I had not had very much experience with either meditation or breath work. I feel like I've attempted meditation some, but not very fruitful on my own. But getting into that environment, I liked that we took some time to connect to our bodies before we got started. We shook off our nervous energy and anxiety and connected ourselves to ourselves, and it was a great way to start it. I think that made a huge difference in it. I don't know. I don't know. It was so relaxing. Like I almost like I got a head high from it. You just
Mm,
kind of reach this place or spiritual plane or whatever it is, and that it was pretty incredible.
mhm.
Um, but it was I really was impressed by the whole bit. It was way more than I expected it to be.
Mm. Yeah, and it seems so simple, right? It's like just using your breath to focus and center yourself and become present, but there really is so much power in becoming present. I know for me, I've never had these super crazy experiences when it comes to breath work. Like some people get all these like visions and colors, and I think that's really cool, but like I've just never had that. For me, oftentimes what it ends up being is I'll think that I'm being distracted in my thoughts, but what's actually happening is everything's so quiet that the thoughts that are unconscious are coming up. And so for me, I'm able to actually kind of see a peek into these things that I maybe don't even realize are still there, things that might need attention, things that might need healing. So for me, it's, that's kind of been my process with it. But, I'm hopeful that for the things in the retreat that were really, beneficial, or that you got something out of, that people will be able to go home and implement in their own ways, just these are different tools essentially, right? And not every tool is going to be great for everybody, but it's my hope that if it is good for you, then you can find a way to implement that into your life a little bit more.
And that's actually something that I did implement, baby steps, but I have never, prior to going to the retreat, I'd never done any breath work because I've done yoga, but it's not, even yoga, sitting there and you're not in your, when you're resting position, I forget what it's called, but it's always uncomfortable for me because my brain's moving a million miles. And so I was always that person that was like, my brain doesn't shut down. It just, this isn't fun for me. That experience was wild to me. When we had gotten done, he had said, how long do you think we were doing it? And my mind, I was like, max 15 minutes. And he's like, 35 minutes. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what Chelsey said. I came out of it like kind of a little bit disoriented and like almost like a high, like I was on a head high, like she said. And it was relaxing. It was going deeper into myself, and just the way I felt after, I knew I was like, this is something I need in my life. And so I actually, I'm the type of person that if I'm going to implement something new, I have to do it baby steps because I want to keep that promise to myself. If I say like, I'm going to do this every day, I know it's not going to happen and it's just going to be done. So I told myself, okay, I can make time, 20 minutes, because I think he said the minimum that you should, it's like 20 minutes once a week to do it. And so I actually did it on Sunday for the, and then the previous week that I've been doing it Sundays. And it's just, even like he gave us a link in an app, and so there's he's really guiding you and leading you, and honestly that is something I'm going to definitely continue on with, because the mind refreshment that it gave me, and just to be still and not have any distractions for 20 to 25 minutes is wild what that could do for you.
I know, it's so crazy. And it's, I wish more of this was taught to us, like growing up. And even imagine like if in high school you were taught how to manage stress and emotions and process things. Like I really wish that this was taught sooner, but they are really such incredible tools. And what I find is a lot of the time we can go throughout life and experience, depression and anxiety and feeling unfocused or unclear of where we're going in life. And sometimes it's not always about, finding the next big opportunity or thing. Sometimes you just need to get really present so that you can get that clarity, because oftentimes what we're looking for is found within ourselves, with connecting to ourselves, connecting to God, and allowing there to be clear space there versus all of this kind of like junk in the room that's making your headspace, your internal headspace, cluttered. So I found that's just a really good way to kind of declutter things for me. And Chelsey, your husband was actually able to join us for the breath work as well, and the ice plunge, which he crushed it. He did so good in that. Had he done cold showers before?
He's done some cold showering, but never an ice plunge. He honestly kind of felt the same way I did about after all the girls went, like he had to do it. Like there was no options. Like he had to do it. Yep. So he crushed it. I was really proud of him.
That's awesome. Well, so there's another thing that we did, which I talked about with a few of the girls in one of the last calls. And it was actually the prayer circle that we did. And it's a moment where we had everybody write down what their prayer requests would be. And then I had you guys actually stand up and do some sort of, it's almost like a speed dating, but it was like a speed prayer circle where you basically got prayer around 15 or so times of 15 or so people like praying for your exact thing. So what was that like to be on the receiving end of having people come and just speak these words over you? What was that like for you?
I was, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was honestly touched. I don't know. I hadn't had life and love spoken over me like that in a long time. I just had a few needs that I wrote down before me, and then just having each one pray over them in their own way, using their own words. they touched it in every possible way, and it blessed me so much. I I couldn't imagine getting so much out of an experience like that. It meant the world to me. It was beautiful.
And isn't it crazy how, some people were saying, I've never prayed out loud before, or I don't know how to pray, or I'm not good at praying. And yet, like you said, like they were able to hit things in such different and unique ways because each person prayed so differently. Each person, speaks so differently. And for me, like it really was, I can echo what you said, such a beautiful experience to hear how people express those things. And I too was touched by it. So I definitely can relate to that. What about you, Shaday?
Yeah, no, it was one of the most beautiful experiences that I really can't describe. I came home and actually I called my mom right after that and I was like, "Mom, like I just did something that I'd never as far as what you were saying as the praying out loud, I pray for people, like quietly to myself, but I have never prayed out loud like for someone and um that was just awesome and it was beautiful and God was like such in the midst of the whole weekend, but man did I just feel it there. And for someone to take the time to listen to me and pour their like heart and prayers like onto me was just like I want to cry thinking about it, to be honest. It was that touching and like that is what like that just it was beautiful. I've never had experience like that and I just those girls and you and everyone is just amazing. And to be so vulnerable and open was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I absolutely echo everything that you're saying. I was so excited to be a part of that and to get to pray over each one of you. I was so excited for that. But because I was in the circle, then it also came time for me to sit down. And then it's like everyone at the retreat got to pray for me. And that was such a life-giving experience for me. So I really appreciated everyone's heart because like you said, they really did just pour their heart out and it was so special and so unique coming from each individual. So what an incredible experience. And I'm so glad to have gotten to share that with you guys. What would you guys say to somebody who is really seeking personal development and personal growth in their lives? Maybe they feel unsatisfied with where their lives are at right now. They feel like there's something more for them, but they don't know how to break through from their current, ways of life. They're doing the same thing every single day and they want personal growth. They want deep connections. Do you guys have any tools or tips, or maybe it could be a book, maybe it could be just a suggestion from the beginning of your personal journey when you started? What are some things that kind of started to help cultivate this lifestyle of growth in your life?
Yeah, I would say do something. Like, and I think you've said this before, take messy action. Like, just do something. Don't wait for the community or for the opportunity to come to you. Go and create it. So whether that's, if it's community you're missing, what do you love doing? Is it church? Is it gym? I mean, go and find a great gym. Go and they have small groups at churches, or just go to church and make some friends. Is it that you just feel like your life is just not in the place you want it to be? Journal about it. Pray, pray about it, talk about it, narrow it down to say, like, is it your job? Is it where you live? And then it's just about jumping in and taking that action, even when you're never going to say, this is like 100%, I should do this. Like at least for me, there's not anyways with the fight that goes on in my head. And so, pray about it, think about it. But at a certain point, you just have to do it. It's like what you said earlier. I think there's a lot of like, you could read books and you can, talk to people, but until you actually take action, you're just going to be in the same spot that you were.
That's so good and so practical. Chelsey, what about you?
Similar to what I was going to say, just start where you're at and take that next step. Know where your goals are. Just, I don't know, aim, take your steps, consistency, show up, whatever it looks like that day. Take messy action, just like she said. I couldn't agree with those sentiments more.
Yeah. And to add to that, don't put so much pressure on yourself to have it figured out. Because like what we're all saying here is essentially that you're probably not going to have it figured out before you take action. Like you have to actually just step into that action first. So don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to try things and to find out you don't like them or that it's not the right path for you. That's actually a part of the process as well. And it's really important that you go through that phase of figuring out like where your next step in what direction you're going in. Because you'll never know what direction you're going in if you don't actually take those first steps. So yeah, I think that's so helpful. So, okay, I know personally that, you know, what the things that I've experienced in my life are not just for me and not just for my own personal growth, but I'm very aware that the things that I go through and I've come out of now that I'm on the other side of now, they're actually for me to help share and spread to other people and maybe help them, you know, through their struggles and things. So is there maybe one struggle that you guys can think of in your own individual, you know, lives, whether that, you know, could be mindset or finance or faith or maybe when you were in high school or just any struggle that maybe you struggled through that you've overcome that now you could go back and speak to your younger self and like give your younger self advice when it comes to this? Is there anything that comes to mind that you feel you could share with everybody?
I think specifically back to weight loss. I been able to lose and keep off 50 pounds, and that was a struggle all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Understanding that it wasn't about the food or it wasn't about the lack of exercise. There was a lot of root issues and a lot of deeper things that had to be resolved and settled before I could move past that. I think a lot of people skip that step. They think
Wow.
that it's just about exercise and fitness, but really it's about doing that inner work
Hmm.
and starts on the inside and then going from there. That would be, I think, my best advice for
Yeah.
anybody on that journey.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's so important. You know, one of the things that I like to do is I like to get really curious and ask myself questions when I realize that I am engaging in a behavior that I know is not best for me. It could be something as simple as I am, you know, snacking like a lot, right? But it's not like, oh, I'm hungry or oh, I want to enjoy this snack. It's like I'm all of a sudden eating and it's like this anxious type of eating. I would ask myself, okay, why are you doing this right now? And I would answer, I'm not even hungry. Right. And I'd say, okay, well, what's really the issue here? And by asking questions to yourself, and this can just be an internal dialogue that you have with yourself, but by really getting curious and asking yourself, what is the intention behind this? What is the real reason why you're doing this? It could be like with drinking, right? Maybe you're out with friends and you're getting a glass of wine, asking yourself that question. Am I getting this wine because I genuinely enjoy wine? I want to have a great night with my friends and just enjoy it. Or am I going towards this wine because I feel uncomfortable, because I want to mask the fact that I'm upset with somebody next to me right now, or I feel like I have to do this to tolerate, right? Like, where is that intention coming from? Because, like you mentioned, oftentimes it's not about just sticking to the diet, sticking to the exercise, but it's what's going on. What's the heart posture behind what's causing you to not be in alignment with your highest self in these ways? So I think asking some good questions could definitely help as well. Shaday,
Mhm.
do you have anything that comes to mind?
W There's 2 things. One thing is actually something that it was like one of those aha moments actually at the retreat that I
Hmm.
wasn't expecting. You know, and I think God was just like, nope. He's so funny, God, because he knows that I don't listen the first time, not because I don't want to, just because I'm just so unsure. Like, is that you or is that me? Is that, you know? And
Yeah.
so he's got to tell me like every which way for me to be like, no, that's you. And so Thursday night I was reading from my devotional back at the hotel something, and it was about not worrying. And I tend to, even when it's something exciting, again, I'm a planner, and so I try to think of what could go wrong and then try to like and worry about that and try to figure out, okay, how can I make sure that doesn't happen? And so I have this worry all the time, and I didn't really realize it until I read Thursday night. I was reading the devotional. I was like, huh, that kind of hit different. And then Friday morning we had our devotional, and it was a verse in Timothy, and
Hmm.
it was also kind of along the lines of that as well. And I was like, whoa. And then I just really heard God speaking to me when we did that first journaling of like, you've got to let this go, girl. And so I think what I would tell someone is, and it's about manifesting positive thoughts and not those negative thoughts, because and worrying, because number one, we kind of talked about this with the devotional, but I mean, for me, I'm a believer. So I know God's got me. Like he's got the plan out. As long as I'm praying about it and like walking in his steps, like he's got me covered. So I don't need to worry. And in addition, when you manifest negative thoughts, you may be manifesting those in your life. Like those actually may be, coming out. And so I have learned to just, and it was just so weird because it was such a God thing to speak that, like, and make me realize that. And I realized it like that morning. And then I was like, okay, yeah. And so since then, I've really changed my mindset on manifesting positive things. And one tangible kind of outcome of that I can share with you is leaving the retreat. I thought that was like having been so vulnerable and speaking in front of some of the girls and praying over girls and knowing what it felt like, I was just like, this is so life-giving, and I want to be able to give life to others. And you know what, I want to start getting out of my comfort zone and start talking a little bit more, not just sit in the background but a little bit more publicly. And I thought about that, and then I got the email the next day from you and Jess about the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, well, if that isn't like an opportunity after manifesting this positive thought, I don't know what is. It was wild. Like I shared that with one of my best friends. I was like, you won't believe what just happened. And so I think it's just controlling your thoughts, controlling your mind. And then the other thing is just don't ever let someone put you in a box. And whether that be your career, whether that be your boss, your family or even friends, it's okay to do something and start something. Maybe it's a career, and then realize this isn't really for you. And it's time to really grow and change. Too many times, I think when I was younger, I would let, other people put me in this box of like, okay, you're this, so you've got to stay here. And don't do that. Like we're meant to evolve. We are meant to grow. And that's how you are going to find yourself, affect others in a positive way and become like the best version of yourself. We are just constantly growing, evolving. And that's how the world works. Like that's how we have computers, the internet, we're not looking up researching in books and dictionaries anymore. We've got Google to take 2 seconds, it's because someone was not satisfied with where they were and wanted to make change. And so just do it and evolve and, grow.
Wow. Preach. You always need to share because you just have such incredible things. And I definitely can identify with that. I remember back in college when for my entire life, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a cardiologist because I wanted to fix people's hearts. And, I thought that was my identity. Like I really found my identity in that. My family even put like Dr. Emily in their phones, like my parents. And so when I realized in college that I wasn't going to be going to medical school and I was going to change my major at that time, I just had such an identity crisis because I was like, but this is who I have to be Dr. Emily. Like I've always said I was going to be Dr. Emily. Right. And it was, crazy looking back on it with perspective, right? Because it felt like the end of the world. It felt like the end of who I was. Little did I know that was literally the beginning of who I was. And I like to think that now I still have a play in helping fix people's hearts, just in a different kind of way.
100%. Absolutely. Like, girl, if you were that doctor, I'm sure you would have been a great doctor, but man, the world would be missing something phenomenal, like the impact that you're having in doing what you're doing. And who knows, maybe you'll grow and do something else and impact in other ways, but you're meant to be, at least at this moment, where you are for sure.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Well, okay. We are going to kind of close out the podcast episode here with one of our few last questions here. So number one, I know it's very hard. This is probably the hardest question to answer, but if you just had one major takeaway and it doesn't have to be specific to like the Evolve Retreat per se, but just in general of buying a ticket, making yourself go to this event, which may have caused, stress or worries or anxiety, right? But what was like a major takeaway of just pulling the trigger and going to an event that spoke to you, Chelsey?
Like you said, you can look at something like this in the beginning. You can count the travel expense. You can look at the hotel costs and different things. But by the end of it, if you look at it, you cannot put a value on what you got out of it. Like, I couldn't go to the store right now with all of the money that I have and buy what I got out of that weekend. Like it just, you have to have faith in it. You have to invest in yourself and you got to trust the process. I mean, I wouldn't go and sign up for every event that you see. I mean, I would trust the organizers and what you have going on, and make sure that it's like-minded group. But I would definitely suggest get out there and do it. It's worth it. Whatever it costs, it's worth it.
And how about you, Shaday?
I mean, I would mirror what Chelsey says, and if it's even a thought in your mind to do something, and if there's uncomfortable feelings that come with it, it's probably correct, and you should probably go do it. And it's there's no dollar amount or value that you could really put on that experience, and so it's just go in 2 feet first, or I guess it won't be 2 feet first because you'd be falling, but step in all the way. Yeah, 100%. And I just don't think you'll regret it. And one more thing too is what Chelsey touched on is be careful though with who you allow to speak kind of over you or to you, or who you learn from, because I think in this day and age everybody has something that they want to offer, but you really want to make sure that you see the fruits of their life, and that you've at least know a bit about them before you decide to trust them with yourself. And I think you, Emily, like I said, I've been following you since you were a first form athlete, and I trust, I have that trust with you. And so I have never done another retreat put on by anyone else, and I just don't know that I don't know that I would, but yeah, I mean, I just go to Emily's retreat.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And what you're actually mentioning is so wise and important. I actually went to, not really a retreat, but I went to this event that I signed up for, paid a lot of money for. It was a couple of days over the whole weekend kind of thing. And I remember calling my dad on the second day, just so distraught and so upset and not in a good place at all. And I'm telling him my experience, telling him what's happening. And he was like, Emily, leave. Like, you do not have to continue. If you don't, he's like, follow your intuition. Your intuition is telling you that everything's a red flag and everything is telling you no and to go. So go. He's like, and let it go. Don't worry about it. Like, just literally let it go. And I, for whatever reason, I needed somebody to tell me that it was okay to walk away from something like that. So and for me, it was supposed to be an event that promoted personal growth and personal development and working on hard things and being uncomfortable. And I was really, really excited for it. So it was really upsetting to go through that experience, but it actually taught me a lot. And it just helped me to be more firm in who I am and what I believe and my core values. And, I think it's important to mention because, yeah, like you mentioned, like you should really know and trust the people that you're going to go and do this kind of work with, even if it is just all for fun. I think it's important to know. And I kind of just, someone told me I should do it. It would promote a lot of growth. So I did it. Right. And it was not a good thing at all. I actually did a whole YouTube video on it, warning people. And I've gotten messages for years and years and years about people who have come out of that and just their stories and how much it's helped to be open about that. So yeah, I just mentioned that so that if somebody is maybe in that experience, that they will be strong and confident enough to walk away from something. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know what's going on. Just if your gut feeling is telling you to leave a situation, a relationship, an event, just follow it and leave, because it'll be the best decision for you. It's never the wrong decision to trust that like really strong inner gut feeling that you're feeling. Always trust it and always go with it. So I thank you for mentioning that, because that was a very random tangent I did not plan on going on. No, I thought it was great. Okay, so last question for you guys. How are you continuing to evolve in your life? The retreat is over, now you're back at home. So how are you continuing to live a lifestyle of personal growth and development? What are, some things that are kind of on your mind, maybe post-retreat, maybe practices that you've implemented? How are you continuing to grow? Shaday.
All right. So after the retreat on the plane home, I wrote down kind of takeaways and things that I wanted to continue with. And so for me, it's just a very, here are 3 things, and I can be more specific. One, like I said, is the Wim Hof breath work that we learned. Never done that before. And it was just so powerful. And it really just, I feel like it did so much for me that I eventually would like to be doing it multiple times a week. But right now it's just once a week. I want to keep that promise to myself. And then also there were 2 other things. The other one is watching my mind and where my thoughts go, and manifesting positive thoughts and not, and when it comes to worry, bringing my worries to, for me, it's God, and trusting him with that. And I'm also in the middle of I'm in the middle of a move, and it's taking me out of my comfort zone. And so I'm able to practice that a bit with just going into the retreat. I was stressing and worrying about it. And then once I kind of learned and took the takeaways that I did, now I'm actually really excited, and I'm like, this is going to be a great journey. And so it's putting that into practice, and yeah, and just also, one of the girls had mentioned this is, I'm a believer in God, and while sometimes I love praying for other people, like to myself, but I don't always bring my prayers to him for myself, as to because I'm like, oh, he knows, but it's no, like he wants to hear those things. So I've been also making it a point to actually bring my personal prayers to God, and just developing that relationship with him more, on a consistent basis, and not waiting for some amazing, retreat to do it. I just want to keep doing it here.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Two things I think I want to mention. So on the thoughts thing, because you mentioned that now you're like, oh, I'm excited. And now it's excitement, right? A little cue that I've been telling myself in my own brain and thought process is when I do feel worry or anxiety or whatever it is, I just say, that feeling, it's actually just energy, and I can apply whatever meaning I want to it. So I'll say, okay, it's not anxiety. I'm actually excited. And then I just get happy, and I literally put a smile on my face, and I'm like, this energy that's in here, it's actually just excitement, and that's okay. And that's fun. And let me turn on a fun song. Right. So being able to kind of give yourself those mental cues in order to help you shift from the anxious way of feeling and thinking into just an excited way, because it truthfully is just energy. So if you can learn how to reallocate that energy and kind of turn it into what you want it to be, you can still have the same energy and just have a different experience of it. And then secondly, with the prayer life, I love that you're having those conversations with God, because it's kind of like the more that you talk to him about these things and the more that he does in your life and shows you and even reveals to you about your life, the deeper and closer that relationship gets. So I do think it's really important to have that prayer life for the deepening and that closeness of that relationship. And it ends up being something so beautiful, because then when something happens in your life, you're like, I literally talked to you about this. Like, we had a conversation about this, and you revealed these things to me, and I was able to, offer these things and like turn away from these things, turn towards you. And now look what's happening in my life. And that's what builds that trust. And that's what deepens that faith as well. So I love that you're focusing on that.
And when you have that deeper relationship with God, I think it then gets easier to hear him and be guided in the direction that he wants you to go to. So it really just comes like hand in hand.
Oh, so true. So good.
Absolutely.
Chelsey, what about you?
I would say for me, the way that I've brought it home, like she said, applying that mindset. I feel like I'm a very cognitive person. I can get lost in my thoughts and inside my head, and the retreat it brought me out of my head long enough I came up for air. I can see what's around me now, and just kind of living on a different plane since then. I was kind of in a valley, and it helped bring me up, and I feel like I can see clearly. I can see what's ahead. It really helped me confirm my position too in like my career. One of my conversations I had with someone, she asked me what I did for a living. I casually mentioned it, and she just immediately started loving on it. Like, oh, you're an integrator. You do all of these things, and just like it melted my heart, because it's something that I struggle with. Is like a behind the scenes type of person, and it's just something I keep holding on to, is that my position's important and that it has a need. And I don't know, just little things like that. I just keep washing over little conversations that I had with everyone, and just the words that they spoke over me. I really carried those, and that was the most for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So we didn't cover it, but I got to shout out your dad, Doc.
Yes, please.
We had such a special moment with him. Whenever he came, we had an opportunity to ask him questions, and he prayed over us. And I think all of us had our own special moment with him, and that it was it's incredible. I hadn't experienced anything like that, and I don't know, holding on to what I said. No more looking back.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And I mirror that. Your dad is truly phenomenal, and like the leader and the mentor, and like the dad, as you mentioned, to every, like, so many people. Like, he has a gift, and that experience, I felt like a sponge, just soaking it all in. And the things that he was saying to other people was like hitting me. I mean, by the time I got up there, I was already in tears. But just so much gratitude for your dad. Thank you. And, thank you, just to him for being there and taking the time with us. Like, exactly what Chelsey said.
I know. Afterwards, I told him everything you guys are saying, and I was like, I can't thank you enough, because we were running a little late. So we ended and I was like, okay, bye, Dad. Love you. Okay, talk soon. So I had to call him a few days later and give him like the little, debrief of everything. And yeah, just kind of echoing a lot of what you guys said. He really is just really gifted in that way. And I think the craziest thing about it is that, his dad wasn't involved in his life. And a lot of people would think, to be such an amazing dad and father and mentor and leader, that you would have had that, from your blood. And that was actually a topic that we talked about a lot through a lot of the girls' stories is, oh, well, my father wasn't present, or, oh, my mother wasn't present, or these different things. Right. And so I think it's cool and really powerful to have a real living experience of somebody who also didn't have that figurehead, but was able, with spiritual eyes, to see the fathers that were placed in his life at a different time and season for different reasons. And he was able to gain and learn all that he needed to from those father type figureheads. So yeah, I agree, guys. As he was speaking, like, even being his daughter, and we speak all the time, and I get all of that all the time, learning from everything that you guys were going through, and just seeing the way that he really operated was really powerful for me as well. So I'm glad that we were all able to experience that as a group. We went deep, guys. Like, I remember at a certain point, I texted the group chat and I was like, okay, no more feelings. The rest is just fun.
After coming out of doc, between the morning prayer session and the devotional and then doc, I think my eyes were kind of puffy from crying. So when you sent that message out, I was like, yeah, I could get on with that.
Totally. And that's the other thing.
We did it.
I didn't even plan for it to be that much or that deep. Like, I knew we were going to get deep. I knew some tears would be shed. I knew it would be some personal growth. But at a certain point, I was like, as I promised, the rest of the weekend's not like this. We still have fun and jiu-jitsu and cold plunging and dinner. Like, we'll just laugh and have fun the rest of the time.
Yes.
Well,
next time, tissues.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? You're right. That is something. We'll add that to the list. And speaking of adding it to the list, shout out to Jess, who behind the scenes was just helping to make everything happen. And, Chelsey, as you were sharing about your job position, man, I think about people like Jess behind the scenes that work for me or have worked with me, who I literally would not be able to do what I do without them. So it's like, some people think that because one person is in front of the camera, they are more important or have more value. And it's like, no, I literally couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the support and the team that helps make everything happen. So it's so valuable and so appreciated, because if not, I would be sitting here by myself, trying to make all this happen. It just wouldn't flow the way that it does. So I just have to echo how important having that support and that team that's there to partner with me, like right alongside of me, and make the overall vision happen. Like, that's so valuable, so important, and it's irreplaceable, truly. So just had to reiterate that. But thank you guys so much for being on today's show. I've just loved getting to see you guys again and chat, and I appreciate you being open enough to share these things with the listeners, because I believe whether or not they attend a retreat or work with me or even continue listening to the podcast, I think they'll get a lot of value out of the lessons and things that you guys shared. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you for having us.
Of course. All right, guys, you know the drill. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and rate and review it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. That's the way that the show grows. If you guys want to check out Chelsey and also Shaday, their information will be down below. So make sure to check them out, their links, their Instagrams, and feel free to DM them. Let them know that you heard them on the show. If you'd like to share this podcast episode, you can share it from @Evolve with Emily podcast page. Make sure to tag the podcast page if you'd like to be reposted. And without further ado, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.